Okay. Javier Becerra, Chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, joined by our Vice Chairman Joe Crowley, Chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Congressman from New Mexico Ben Ray Lujan, and our colleague from California who's been a champion on so many issues, but certainly issues relating to health care and women's rights, Jackie Speier. Glad that she's with us as well. We had a caucus meeting where the principal focus of discussion was, well, making sure we don't experience what we saw 2 years ago in 2013 when Republicans decided to shut the government down for reasons unrelated to the government itself and the budget that needs to be in place for the government services that we pay for with our taxes can keep on moving forward. And 2 years ago, we saw that as a result of the Republican government shutdown that some 120,000 jobs were lost. We saw as well that the economy lost some $24 billion, and while $1 billion may not seem like a lot to some politicians in Washington, D.C., a fraction of that would help a lot of people help pay for their college education for their kids, the mortgage on their home, or just making sure they're getting ready for retirement. And so it adds up. And certainly I don't believe most Americans would like to see our Republican colleagues take the same tack they used 2 years ago in trying to force issues on their social agenda through a halt to our government operations, whether it's Social Security, veteran services, food safety inspections, or the research that's being done right now at the National Institute of Health to help us solve the problems of cancer and Alzheimer's disease and so forth. And so we're hoping that we're going to watch our Republican colleagues move forward. We're prepared to do what it takes to keep our government operating efficiently, smartly. The one thing that is becoming very troubling is that these stopgap measures are becoming the rule rather than the exception when it comes to our budgets. And just as no small business on Main Street would operate on stopgap budgets and wait till the very end of the cliff to decide what to do, neither should the largest economy in the world operate that way. And so we're hoping that our Republican colleagues will decide not to go that same course of shutting down the government, and that we'll have a long-term budget that really does meet the needs of the American people. And so we're hoping that, having expressed that very clearly, that the message goes out that Democrats are ready to work with our Republican colleagues. Whoever becomes the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, we're ready to work with them because we think that with the economy churning, moving forward, jobs being created, this is the last time we need to have a government shut down by our Republican colleagues. With that, let me turn it over to our Vice Chairman, Joe Crowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What a week last week was. To be in the presence of the Holy Father, Pope Francis, and more importantly, the message that he had for America, and leaving, I believe, an indelible mark on all Americans, whether Catholic or non-Catholic, or believer or not. It was really an incredible week. I'm wearing green today, and I have to switch, I think, later today to pink. But I'm wearing green this morning because the Pope said that green is the color of hope. He told that to Speaker Boehner. I want to thank the Speaker for inviting the Pope, the Pontiff, here. I want to thank Leader Pelosi, as well as all my colleagues I thought acted remarkably responsibly in the chamber. But listening to the Pope's message to Congress, whether it's on climate change, the death penalty, on a myriad of issues that he had mentioned, what I think was really clear is that he emphasized the need for us to do as representatives what's in the best interest of our country and to govern. And that includes, I think, a message to my Republican colleagues to stop governing by crisis. There's enough crises in the world. I think you've heard me say this over and over again. There are natural disasters happening around the world and here in the United States. We have drought. We have forest fires. We know we'll have tornadoes at some point. We'll have hurricanes, hopefully not in New York, but we'll have them somewhere, and hopefully not anywhere. There's enough of that going on. The American public does not need additional crises, and going from man-made crisis and man-made fiscal cliff to fiscal cliff creates more and more anxiety. It hurts the markets. We've seen what's been going on, and quite frankly, my Republican colleagues are contributing to that in the mere suggestion that once again we will not pay our nation's debts. That does not send the right message that we espouse as America, not only to ourselves but to the rest of the world. And the notion or idea, well, we may have gotten past the shutdown for this week, and that remains to be seen. We're hopeful. We're hopeful again that we will get through this week. But we know that in December, we're going to be facing the same man-made crises again. And right now, the issue they've chosen is women's health. They've decided that this is a good issue to go after. Go after women's health. The war on women continues. But I have news for you. Whether it was Planned Parenthood or some other entity, there would have been another issue that they would have chosen to shut down government. They did it 2 years ago, they almost did it a year ago, and they want to do it again. It's in their blood. The Republicans, for some reason, just need to do this. I don't get it. The American people don't get it. They know that it will cost us billions and billions of dollars, and that it will mean job loss for Americans. Job loss for Americans. That is not a way to grow our economy. That is not a way to govern. Stop governing from crises to crises. And with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague from New Mexico, the chairman of the DCCC, Mr. Ben Ray Lujan.
Thank you, Joe. Well, good morning, everyone. I think that what we're seeing yet again, as our chairman and vice chairman remind us about the responsibility of governing, is how House Republicans have demonstrated all year that they cannot govern responsibly on behalf of hardworking, everyday Americans, putting in fighting over governing and reckless positions over progress. The Republican Party is broken, and Speaker Boehner's resignation is the starkest and most high-profile example of that dysfunction and chaos. It's disturbing that Speaker Boehner was somehow not conservative enough for many of our Republican colleagues. But let's be clear, this is not a Speaker Boehner problem. It's a Republican problem. This is a Republican conference problem. And the next speaker will face the same stark choice as Boehner. Go along with the extreme base or get run over by them. The right wing is emboldened right now, and that will only continue to grow as we approach big upcoming deadlines. Raising the debt ceiling, extenders, the Highway Trust Fund, and extending the Export-Import Bank. But the American people are watching, and they know that this fight within the Republican conference that is on full display with all this dysfunction, it matters to them. It impacts their lives. There's no doubt that voters are paying attention to the broken Republican-controlled Congress and know that it is not functioning at all, let alone functioning to make their lives better. And it's clear, Republicans will be held accountable for this dysfunction in moderate and swing districts across America. And with that, recognize our colleague from California, the very Honorable Jackie Speier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Republican game of brinksmanship must end, because it's a game that is being played out by stepping on the lives of women. There are at Planned Parenthood some 800,000 exams given every year. Breast cancer exams, contraception, and STD testing. What does that mean? 800,000 is the size of the state of Wyoming, or the state of Vermont, or South Dakota, or North Dakota. We're talking about a lot of people. Now, I want to draw your attention to Colleen, 27 years old, from Albany, New York, was in between jobs, and as such, she went to Planned Parenthood for health care. There it was discovered that she had stage 2 breast cancer. Stage 2 breast cancer. And it was because she went to Planned Parenthood and got the health care she needed that she is alive today. And it's not just women that get health care at Planned Parenthood. Some 300,000 men seek services at Planned Parenthood as well. So the time for the Republican majority in this House to stop the brinksmanship, stop their absolute focus on trying to shut down Planned Parenthood must stop. Because by doing that, they're shutting down health care for women. And it's time for all of that to end. Thank you.
With that, we'll take any questions from press. Yes.
You mentioned the turmoil on the GOP side several times, and it sounds like you're not optimistic the next speaker will be able to get things in line. A couple of you are from California. What do you make of Leader McCarthy? Seems to be the favorite right now. What chance do you think he has?
I'll simply say that I think Kevin McCarthy is someone who has been in leadership, not just in the House, but before he served in the state legislature, and he was in the Republican leadership there as well. And so he understands legislators, and he understands the legislative process. My sense and our hope would be, if he becomes a speaker, that he would use that knowledge to help us move legislation forward to try to get things done. Perhaps he'll have more success in corralling his own team so that we can get things done. But at the same time, the concern is that, as the vice chairman just said, that will he work with them? Actually, the chairman of the DCCC said this. Will he be able to work with his colleagues on the Republican side, or will he get run over by them? Our hope is that not only can he work with them, but he'll reach across the aisle to work with us so we can get things done, rather than doing things at the last moment through these fiscal cliff kind of deals. Jackie, I know that California.
I would just say that Kevin McCarthy is an amiable man. He has served here in Congress and has developed great leadership skills. But you have a rump caucus in the Republican Party right now that is turning into a cancer. And they want their pound of flesh. And if they don't get their pound of flesh, they will shut down this government. And Kevin McCarthy will be faced with the same challenges that Speaker Boehner has been faced with, trying to assuage them and never assuaging them enough.
Mike?
Following up on that, then how do you counter that to prevent a shutdown from the minority? Do you focus then on the Senate and hope that McConnell does something that will pressure a McCarthy who's going to be pressured from the right? Or can you try to sit down with the House Republicans and convince them not to listen to their right flank?
Joe? Okay.
Just in thinking about whoever the Republican leadership will be in the House, it may not be as important how they get along with us as how they get along with themselves, quite frankly. I do think that there may be a learning curve, a time in which, I can't see a honeymoon because there's no time for a honeymoon, but the hope that maybe it's Mitch McConnell, maybe it's some other adult within government from their side of the aisle who will be able to temper some of the headstrong folks they have within their caucus. That may also get alleviated by the election of some of the far right wing to their leadership. I don't know what that will be. That's going to be their decision to make. What I know we are concerned about is ending governing by crises and getting them to focus on ending government by crises and doing more long-term visionary things for the country. What they have consistently lacked is a vision for growth in the United States. It hasn't happened under John Boehner. We hope it happens under the next speaker that they empower. But the bottom line is they have done nothing when they have been in control to grow the country. If anything, it's to stymie the growth of this country in government.
Jackie, I don't know if you or Ben, Ray, have anything you want to add? Other questions, comments? With that then, thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Jackie, thank
Thanks.
you. Ben Ray, thank you. Thank you.